at 7:02.
Okay. Yep, we're good.
I can bang the gavel, improvise, my cheap glasses. Good evening, welcome. I know we have a couple people out tonight, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with Paul, Treasurer's Report.
Sure. So I think you all have a copy of it. The changes from last time around, we got the Lions Club on here for $95,000 coming from fiscal year '23 budgeted reserve. I will add that there's been some movement going on the last week or so. So Lions Club received a invoice from, was it land planning?
Land planning.
Land planning for $4,407.03, but they had already turned those funds back in. So Joanne reached out to Mary Loria. The account was still open, so we were able to adjust that. It's not reflected on the treasury report.
Can I
'cause that
interrupt?
just
I'm
really
sorry,
happened this
the
week.
account was not still open. Mary cut us a humongous
Okay.
break by reopening that account. This is not standard procedure
No.
going forward.
Clearly it's not.
before, like,
How do they not know that? How do they not know they have a bill outstanding of
because
$4,000?
it was from, my understanding was it was from late winter. So you're talking about on June 30th, I said to them, "You good closing this out?" And they said yes. So the lesson learned is we need to go back, the project owners, I'm sorry, I'm stealing your treasurer's report.
That's
The
all right.
project owners need to go back to their vendors, their contractors, and make absolutely certain that all of the bills have been sent in. This bill was not sent in until September.
So, just to ask it and understand, what would be
I wouldn't
our
either.
It happened to the library.
options
Were you
if it
in
was
on
closed
When
and
I
they,
kicked into
she wouldn't have reopened
a
it?
year, like,
Would that have been up to the
year.
Lions Club to find a way to
Said
pay
that,
without
so sad.
CPC,
I voted-
CPA
I only
funds?
voted against.
I honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
Never got that
We
far
didn't have
to look
pursue
at it.
that.
I
Maybe
mean,
we
somewhere you
didn't
should
have
know
to.
you have a bill
Yeah.
outstanding for $4,000. At the
There
same
would
time,
be
you're not
some
getting billed.
No, this was
avenue that you
100.
could have pursued, I am sure.
I would definitely be curious to know what that avenue would be if that came about in the future,
Like,
unfortunately,
you know,
which we want to avoid,
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the first time it's
If somebody
happened
else
that
had
I can
100
recall.
grand, I think I'm all over it.
I've been on
You know?
committee for,
That's
I've never,
not a little bit of money.
I've never seen it happen before.
yeah, so, but it's, something that's good for all of us to be cognizant of and to make sure when, we are, overseeing a particular, project, that we make sure that they actually have fully paid everyone before we close out the accounts. But at any rate, that is not reflected in this report, and it wouldn't show up here anyways. It will show up on the fiscal year '22 report, which I will update and provide to us for review next month. So, in addition to the Lions Club, coming from fiscal year '23 budgeted reserve is $250,000 for 95 North Street. The balance of the funding for 95 North Street is coming from the undesignated fund balance, and that's $435,767. And then we also have on here, and it was already there before, but the Robinson property is the $300,000 for the two pieces of property, and then the baseline report is $2,500. And then new on here is the library furniture, which is $15,000 coming from the historic reserve. So this leaves us with $164,278 available for any CPA purpose, and $332,566 available for all CPA purposes.
That final number you just said, the 332,000, does that include the Affordable Housing Trust anticipated deduction?
Yes, that's on there.
Okay.
So Paul, when you say the historic reserve, that's the reserve that was for historic?
Yes, this is
Stuff
a
and-
historic project, so
the-
restoring the furniture.
Oh, it's restoring furniture. Okay, it's not buying new furniture. All right,
It's
okay.
restoring historic furniture.
Oh, that's the tables and that stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
so that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Any other questions?
I move we accept the treasurer's report as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second? A motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Clerk's report. There are a couple, and Kristen had added, there's a separate page that she had some corrections or additions that are a single
Yeah,
page.
the July might make more sense to start with July. Kristen's changes were in August. The July meeting minutes, I think you remember Paul had wanted me to add some clarification about the rock wall, the stone wall on Stonegate Circle. So if you look at lines 86, that's about the spot where that information was added. And if you go up to 82, I had left 2 words out of a sentence. And Paul identified that as well and let me know about that. So lines 82 through 86 are what have been changed since you last looked at these minutes.
The only correction that I would have found is on line 27 to DO.
Line 27,
Instead of DUE.
it should be DO.
Had the highway department do some of the work,
Yep.
so it's correctly spelled.
I move we accept July minutes
It's
as
just
presented and
different.
amended.
I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Second.
A second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, declare the July minutes approved with the corrections. August 25th minutes.
I just added between 95 and 97, when we talked about the option to eliminate the smaller loop, or the lower loop. I wanted to, there was discussion about why that wasn't really an option, because that was the accessible loop, and that's the whole point of the park. So I just wanted people to understand that it's not just an opinion, like, you
Yeah.
can't get rid of it.
Right. And short money to do the second.
Yeah.
Good with that change?
The only correction I have is on 16.
Line 16?
My mom's, it's Betty.
Oh, sorry. Did I write Betsy?
Betsy. You were talking to Betsy, I bet. Do you know Betsy?
I do know a Betsy.
Any other corrections?
I move we accept the August minutes with the corrections mentioned.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? August 25th minutes approved as amended, as corrected. We have correspondence regarding the bylaw, the Community Preservation Committee bylaw. If you guys, there's a copy included. Want to take a look? The Bylaw Review Committee is reviewing all the bylaws, and if we have any suggestions or recommendations to them, if we think it's great the way it is, we could say that. They're looking for our input on our particular bylaw,
On our bylaws,
on our bylaw.
are there any changes? that
No, that's, they don't have any particular, they're not proposing any changes that I'm aware of.
That, well, they're obtaining input from everybody, and then they're gonna review that, and they may propose changes. So to say that another group or a citizen or someone might not come to them and say that they want to change to your bylaw, that could happen. But what they're asking for right now are your thoughts on the CPA bylaw.
Is there anything that we see that should be changed?
Do they have a timeline for when they need to hear back?
Yes, I sent all of this to you guys in an email right after I received the email, but it went out a while ago. They're looking for responses by, I think it's like October 13th. So this was the meeting where you were going to have to discuss this.
So So I'll
Yep.
I'll say that earlier this year I was looking into some bylaws of some other communities for CPC, and there was a few things I found interesting. I'm not necessarily confident that I would want them done in Grafton, but just to mention the ones that I noticed is, for example, there was some communities that had terms of office for CPC. I'm not sure that really would be the best option in Grafton with the people that do apply for a role on us, but that's just one example. Towns that have a requirement that the at-large seats do not have another role in town government in any way. So no other committees, no other elected positions. There's some communities that have other committees designate the open seats instead of just the select board. Like there's one community that for example, Bourne, one of their open seats is selected by the Open Space Committee. And then there's also some communities that have a variable number of community seats. Some Braintree has 0 to 4 at large. It's how it's specified in there. When I looked this up, initially they only had 2 at large at that moment. But those are just the few things I had noticed that I found interesting.
I know we had that discussion, or I heard that discussion, that at-large really should mean at-large, that you're representing everyone and that you don't have any other commitment to any other committee in town. So you really are the spokesman for the community rather than a committee you might be serving on.
I don't know that we have any at-large members currently that meet that definition.
No, Ken did.
Rick.
Yeah, Ken
Ken did.
wasn't on any other town committees.
Yeah, Ken, but he's not on
Right.
anymore.
Right. But I mean, but that, if
How
we
do you-
said that, then
How do you define a town committee?
it's appointed by the selectman or the moderator.
Yeah.
Is that, are those the only?
As far as we could do it, we could.
I'm just a question, I don't know what that,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's not like a private nonprofit, like if you're on the land trust. That's
It
not
does
a-
exactly
That's not a town meaning your website, you're included on the town website. Your minutes are required to be filed with the town clerk.
But okay, so that's not a town. I'm just thinking of the different things people get involved with, like,
Well, Ken was on the land trust, and that's not a town committee, but it's
Correct.
certainly something that's pertinent to this committee.
yep,
And when I looked into that initially, it was kind of a note I put aside to look at later. And then I did not look too thoroughly to say, does this town say it's only elected positions? Does this town say it's any positions? You know,
Gotcha,
So
yeah.
I think there was a mix, but I don't.
yep.
I mean, clearly the intent is to have that be a true at-large representation on the committee, somebody that doesn't have an interest from another committee. But I don't know, we've not had that in our bylaws all along.
Yeah.
We didn't have an issue come up until last town meeting. And I know that the select board has publicly said that they're going to be factoring that into their considerations when they reappoint people.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to codify it in our bylaws.
I think it's a potentially good thing to have for going forward as, a bylaw thing to prevent a situation where, the friends of a, select board member or, get in and they're also on like 5 other committees or, just, to actually make sure the people that do come on to represent the town. That said, I don't know that we'd have a full committee if we implemented that.
I was about to
It's gonna make it harder
say,
to find
Yeah.
people.
I was say, it's hard enough to find people to commit. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's, I mean, and I don't think it's getting any better.
And typically, the people that do serve are doing a lot. So,
Some towns actually have their at-large positions be elected positions. So you'd have to, just like you do select board, you'd have to run for it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm in favor of that, I just know that there are
Yeah.
towns out there that have done that because of situations similar to what we experienced previously.
I just had one other question, only just, as far as what's in the bylaw versus what kind of our, policies are, and like I've heard that, used to never sunset things, now you have a routine of sunsetting. That's policy and not really bylaw? Okay. I'm just trying to think of other things that I've heard.
A lot of stuff, it's like, we've learned over the last
Right,
20
and do
years
they need to
what
be
works, what
codified?
doesn't work.
Or is that just a policy statement? And if, do we have that written down?
Part of this,
Okay.
Is it not in our plan? Was that not included in our plan, though? Because we have kind of
The
guidelines.
sunsets are in our plan. What I don't know is if that change,
The newest one, because,
And again, it's always much easier if you're gonna have a policy, if it's a policy, it should be written down.
the policy, it's funny, I'm glad, and I apologize. The plan is the policy.
Gotcha.
The CPA plan would be the policy. My brain's not engaging. So,
Which
that's
is a
why
different
each year you
discussion
look at
than
that.
this.
Right, and each year you look at that. And
Okay.
you have a public hearing where
Gotcha.
folks could come.
And comment on it and
Right,
stuff.
but I
Okay.
will check the plan to see if that change made it.
Okay.
I personally think it would be a good idea to go through this. It needs to be contrasted with Mass General Law.
I mean, I wouldn't,
That's not, we can't change everything.
I wouldn't venture
Something's-
a guess, but I would say this is probably what was supplied by the state, that they did not come up with this. This was the boilerplate that was included when we chose to enact CPA. I mean, this, if you read this, this is very
I will say,
wordsmithed.
in the, I wanna say the 30-ish towns bylaws I had looked at earlier this year, majority were almost word for word this. It just maybe a change between, different committee names that different
Right.
towns have and such, but.
But it, pretty much, it says what we do.
Yeah.
To me, I wouldn't want to make that change, to have it be that at-large members could not be on any other committee. I do think it should be a point of consideration for the select board when they're considering people. But there may be a reason why you want to have somebody that's on a committee. Maybe you don't have representation on something that, may have some pertinence. And they happen to be on that committee. I mean, we have, like, was it a year and a half ago when they were looking to add veterans services, somebody from that. And we already had somebody on that, but I mean, there are times when we may want to have somebody that is on another committee for representation.
Yep.
I think it just limits you if you have it
Right.
written here versus.
And it's more difficult to change then, because if you have to go and change the bylaw, that only happens every 10 years. I don't know how often they do that.
Yeah.
Every decade.
Anyone can petition to do a bylaw change at any time.
Is that like a formal, where they,
What parlor were you? Yeah, like every 10 years or so.
And I will simply say this from my perspective, that the other committees piece and the term limits are two things I find very compelling, but I don't think Grafton's participation level is in line with achieving that, effectively. It'd be something that I would consider saying, in my own head here, that, prefers these, but at that point, it comes down to the select board still making the judgment. It doesn't, no teeth at all. And then, who's to define to them how much they prefer this versus something else, or, when there is a change there. So I'm not so sure that I'm in a position where I would want to make a recommendation for any change to the bylaw committee.
So Joanne, after, whatever, we say, no, we don't recommend, we want to keep it the same as, well, then if someone else wants a recommendation, they'll follow up with us?
That I don't know. That was not very,
do you know who the chairman of that committee is, the chairperson?
no, I only know that Skip Courier is on it. I can, I can take a
I
quick
think
look
it's Ray.
at the web.
Is Ray on it? Skip's on it. I don't know his first name, Mar.
Oh,
Greg Marr?
Is that another name? Somehow,
I would imagine if they were going to, as a committee, discuss or plan to have a change for the CPC's bylaw, that
Even in here.
they would reach out and invite, either to come to us to talk about it, or John or someone to go to them and, discuss their thoughts. I would imagine. it
I would
kinda-
hope, I would hope, but I'm just asking the question.
Is this a zoning review committee?
The bylaw review
Bylaw
committee.
Bylaw, so zone, yeah.
Is there any overarching things that they're looking to update through the bylaws, like equity and some other things like that? Or is this just a routine updating of,
To be frank, I don't honestly know if there's any, direction given to them on, specific topics that the select board wants to see them to do, but I do understand that they are looking at the entirety of our bylaws, the town's bylaws.
So
to make sure they
I-
match up?
they're gonna clean it up so
Yeah,
that.
you get
I
rid of
can,
stuff,
you want
yeah.
me to read you the email that was sent?
No, I can read it, that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think it's like the open space and recreation plan. It's just like every 10 years,
Oh, it's in the charter that we have
you
to
have
do
to
this,
do
or
that.
it's in the
Yeah,
bylaws,
so
whatever.
it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult when your bylaws don't align within a town or between the state and the town and all that kind of good
and
stuff.
so you're kind of,
Yeah.
this way, you're forced to say, oh, we didn't, just like, did we catch that? Our little procedure, did it make it into our?
A few years
plan.
ago, we went through the conservation, the wetlands bylaw and the stormwater bylaw because of the MS4. We want to make sure we align with MS4, because right now, the state and the federal government are not in alignment, which makes it difficult for
And-
the average consultant to go, do I 90%
Mhm.
removal or 80% removal? So, I get it.
It's just making sure everybody's on the same page.
No problem.
Okay, so, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want a formal motion for this?
At this time, we do not feel like there are any changes needed to the CPA bylaw.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimously.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you want me to put a little letter memo together for you to send off?
Right, to send, yeah, to follow up with.
You could ask that if they do receive
Mhm.
any requests, that we be informed.
Right. To keep us updated on any potential changes to the bylaw as they may come to that committee. Next item is town meeting logistics. Town meeting is the third Monday in October, and we typically sit, I know people on different committees, so you may be sitting with different committees, but CPC typically sits in the front towards, in the main section to the left. And we just didn't make sure what,
Yeah. I'll post a meeting for that night.
right, we always post a meeting like 15 minutes ahead of time, just in case there's something that we need to vote on.
Yep.
Don't we technically have to anyway, so that there's no open meeting law violations if we talk about things during?
technically.
Well, I
There's some kind of an
always
exception
thought
for
that the
open meeting.
posting of town meeting kind of
Covers.
It
covered,
embraced all of it.
no?
But I think Maureen Clark said you still need to post it. I think you're just being overly
My-
Even just the fact that CPC's in attendance at that meeting.
No, if you're gonna, I mean, most people do it in case there's something comes up and you wanna vote on it.
Right, that's what I
If
mean.
you're just hanging out there, you don't have to.
Right, yeah, no, that's what I thought, okay.
But like
A lot
finance,
of people do it just in case something
Something
comes
comes
in
up.
at the last second, you posted, so you cover yourself.
like finance will say, oh, we're gonna
Right,
go off to
but
the
they're-
side, and
right.
they really are meeting. So it's like for them, and I think they're probably more likely to have something come up than we would, but
But I'll post one.
just in
I'll-
case.
I'll just say what Tim McInerney had told me before, earlier when I got on playing in the first place, is that if you're gonna sit with your committee, generally you want a specific posting of a meeting. That way there,
No one
if there
can
is
sit, yeah.
discussion, that, or someone perceives that you may have had a discussion, you have a meeting posted.
Yep.
You know,
Got it.
otherwise,
Okay.
if you're spread out and you're only discussing stuff on the town meeting floor as part of town meeting, then it's not really a big deal.
Okay.
That was what he told me, like, one-on-one in person at one point, but.
What time is this?
Good advice.
7 or 7:30 is the start time? 7?
I think there's
Seems like they
seven now.
changed it because they
so
got rid of special, it seems like.
Exactly, so they start at 7.
And I don't know
They start at
if
7,
that's a
yeah.
permanent
Yes, that was the intent.
thing.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't have it in my calendar.
That was the intent. The third Monday, so that's the 17th.
I'll send a note out after I post, so everybody knows what time and everything. And then, the other thing is, but I think you've gone through this before, just the project owners, like Lions Club, Recreation, they all know they need to speak.
Right, and be prepared to answer questions.
Yeah, okay. And then you guys will not have a meeting in October because of town meeting. Your next meeting will be November, but it will be the first Thursday in November,
Which is the third.
okay? Because otherwise you'd be meeting on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to make that one.
Had trouble getting a quorum for that meeting.
I'd be here, but I might be the only one.
But Zoom, you probably could do it, actually.
You said the first Thursday?
The first Thursday, so
It's the 4th. No, the 3rd,
Third.
excuse me.
meet the first Thursday of November and December.
Because Christmas and Thanksgiving tend to throw a
Yep.
wrench in the works of
Yeah.
a fourth Thursday.
And that November meeting will be your grant writing workshop.
I may not be here on the 3rd. I have a,
Is that
Conference
something
that
you could
week.
do a Zoom for?
If I can do a Zoom for that as long as we can be in A, which, you know,
who knows?
We don't
that,
control
usually
that.
that's good, because usually Katrina's, it's the 4th Thursday she holds her hearings. So we might be okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll send out a note early, and if it looks like we're not gonna have a quorum, maybe we'll move it to the 10th, if that works.
You talking November?
Yeah,
And then you said December is the 8th?
yeah, whatever that, it might be December 1st. What's
December
the
1st is the first Thursday.
Mhm. And I haven't seen the email, but Joanne said that Amber from the Selectman's office sent an email that affects us, that we need to attend Finance Committee next Wednesday.
Yes, you guys are on next Wednesday, the 28th. 7 o'clock, they start with the finance director and town administrator on 4 articles, then Department of Public Works on 3, planning on 3, and then you guys on your 5 articles.
Which date is that again?
Or last, we have to wait till the.
Well, I'll send an email back to say, in the past, I mean, I don't know if they're just having one meeting, because she would say, when can you attend? So we'll see if we need to compare schedules and then find out what works.
So, just, what date was that you mentioned, Joanne?
Wednesday, the 28th,
Okay.
because you're on it too, but this email
Yeah.
just came out like at 4:30 this afternoon.
Okay, the planning being on it was why I cared.
Yeah, so.
Okay. If there's no other discussion for town meeting, we'll move on to project updates.
No.
No, we got one more.
Oh, sorry, how did I skip that? The flyer. The handout.
So a couple things, sorry. I have sent a note to Eric, because I had reached out to he and Jim about some of the affordable housing data. Because I believe that there's more current information around the number of affordable units in town. I couldn't find anything on the website.
I would send a separate email or add Chris McGoldrick to the email. He may have some stuff because I know he was previously working to identify if we're in safe harbor and things like that with,
Okay,
so he may have that data himself.
okay. I'll send him this blurb that I have in here
Okay.
and ask him to look at it. So this, we can print this in-house. Cindy told me she doesn't have a problem with us doing that, which, you know, will save a lot of money. I know the intent of it. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Sandy for looking at this and being the eagle eye on it for me. You know, if we print 200 of these and hand them out at town meeting, and then, you know, you could print another 50 if you wanted, to keep some at the planning office and at the assessor office windows for folks to pick up, then each year, you know, this could be something that just gets updated very
Right.
easily. I used Canva. I used the free version of Canva. It's, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And, you know, you can just pop different pictures in and out.
Just one simple edit at the very back bottom.
Yes.
Just 10/22, or whatever date we ultimately print it.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest just
I'm
right
sorry,
on
say
the,
that
Just
again?
at the bottom, just
yeah, somewhere on there.
10/22.
A version date.
Oh, the date.
Just so we
Oh,
know,
10/22. I'm like,
10/22.
October 22 or whatever.
Just
but
so
I
that
was
you know
thinking
when it was
it's a
done.
little,
yeah, like a
for
revision
us,
date.
so we
Yeah,
know.
you can just say
Published.
printed 10/22.
So I noticed you didn't have the date for the town.
I did add that back in, though. It's in there
It's
now.
2016.
Wait.
One thing, this picture that we have, it's a beautiful picture, but this is an old picture and doesn't show, it shows the old lighting that's on there. It doesn't have the
The ramp and everything.
accessible ramp. Could we get an updated picture? I thought I know I had a beautiful one, but my phone, I lost a
I
lot of
can
pictures.
absolutely take a photo and, you know, plop it in there. I pulled this off the website, and you know what? I apologize. I didn't even notice it didn't have the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should update this. I can get a new one.
Yeah,
You
my,
get the Grafton to look better in the front, kind
Yeah.
of blurry.
The
Oh, yeah,
logo.
that's just the,
Yeah, that,
It's made to look like faded, kinda,
yeah, I don't know that I
Be
can.
okay if the rest of it
yeah.
like that, but that's the only thing.
I wonder if I could just use the seal and write our own Grafton, Massachusetts.
I would do that. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, because it doesn't go with the
Nope.
rest of it.
Where it says open space, historic preservation, what about funding open space recreation projects in Grafton since 2002, or
I'm not sorry, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're
something?
talking.
On the front, at the bottom,
Yeah,
it just says open space, historic preservation.
Oh, okay,
But to
yeah, so
add-
what do you want that to say?
Add something like funding open space, historic preservation projects in Grafton since 2002, or,
Oh, you can just say funding of the same
right,
stuff.
just to make
Yeah, you
it
can,
a
I
little,
like since 2000, yeah, that's funding of, blah, 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 all those things since.
I like
You don't
that.
have to say in Grafton, it's obvious. it's in
Right,
Grafton,
right.
but
Yeah.
Since whatever date you just said.
since, right.
2002.
2002, yeah.
Okay. So funding of open space, historic preservation, affordable housing, and recreation projects since 2002.
Yeah, email me after the
Okay.
projects, but sure.
I mean, thousands of,
and my only comment that wasn't already said is you have attribution for every photo on here except for the Pell Farm photo, to say where it was from, or who took it or whatever.
Oh, you know who took that was Leah. I think, I apologize. I think I updated that.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like, just like when Paul said the 2016, I have
Yeah.
updated that already. I'll make sure that Leah gets credit.
Yeah, and
There's a T missing on the third panel above historic preservation, preparation of architectural specifications. The,
Where's the T
Oh.
missing?
ARCHIT.
Oh, architecture, okay, got it.
And just one other thing on, since we're getting into the nitty-gritty editorial,
Yeah.
under affordable housing, you call a local initiative LIP. LIP is local initiative project.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And we could have an argument on whether it should be capitalized or not, but I'm not going there.
It should be, is it not?
Yes, that's what,
I think it
yes.
should be too, yeah.
I will capitalize it.
And so shouldn't comprehensive permit. Comprehensive permit is a thing.
A comprehensive permit should be capitalized too.
Yeah, because it's, yeah,
Got it. Okay.
at least that's what I was taught from.
Comprehensive permit school?
and under Pell Farm, that paragraph,
Yes.
it's just missing a period
Yes.
at the end.
I learned a lot.
Can I make one recommendation?
Mhm.
That when you vote to okay this with changes, that you put in the motion the name of someone on here who's gonna look at this one last time for me?
I'd be happy to do it. I was a editor in a
No,
previous
that
job.
does not surprise me at all.
I will say, I've learned that the Oxford comma is something that is, I guess, frowned upon these days, but I still like it. So I'm happy it's still there.
Oh.
I just have a question, on the panel that says the Community Preservation Act, where
Yes.
it says annually 10% of each of the three funding areas, open space. Is it open space and recreation, or is it, it's
No.
literally just open space? Okay.
I think,
Because then it says open space and recreation elsewhere. That's what's confusing, is they expanded it, but I don't,
know,
because is that three areas, open space recreation is one area? You know what I mean? It's confusing.
Well, there's
I
only
think-
one reserve fund for them, so yeah.
it would have to be open space and recreation, because the whole reason they changed the act in 2016 was because cities,
Couldn't,
they
Create
didn't have
new
open space
land.
to buy.
right.
Right.
That was why they could start refurbing existing parks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so,
Only 3 reserve funds, and so it's open space and recreation, affordable housing, and historic preservation. So I
I'll
think
add
it's
that
fine
in
the way it
in
is.
recreation. Okay,
But when you're done, I'm happy to take a final run through.
okay, and the other thing too I did do, like I said, I reached out to Eric, so some of the information, and I'll send it to
Yep.
Chris McGoldrick around affordable housing. I don't think that the content, like the purpose of it will change, the numbers might.
And it seems like to me that we're in the 2-year period where we've met the standards,
Safe harbor.
safe harbor. Because of projects because they're on the book, somehow they count, even though the people aren't in the units. Because they've approved permitting, that put us in safe harbor. So I think we've met we're over 10% at this point.
Yeah, 5 is low.
And we've been low because we didn't have
Yeah.
any big, but with these huge apartments,
40Bs and stuff,
what you
yeah.
call it, yeah, there's
I
several,
forget, I mentioned,
Pine Street.
Pine Street, yeah, that was a big, because
If
all
it's
of them
re-
count,
because it's all rental. If it's all rental, it's 100%. Yeah.
so.
Anyway, I'm ready to make a motion if you have it.
Okay,
I move that we approve this pamphlet for printing for distribution at town meeting, initial printing of 250. For the edits we've discussed, having the affordable housing numbers updated, and Paul to give a final approval of any additional changes.
Or just a final proofread.
Final proofread.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, declare the motion carried unanimously.
I will contact the town moderator and make sure she's okay with this being handed out.
Right, that's always been the practice and
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, you always have to check.
Who's the moderator? Dawn Anderson?
Don Anderson, yeah.
Even if she's not, we can still print them out for,
Put
others.
in the offices and things.
Hand them out in the parking lot.
I think you could you could pass them out.
100 feet away from the polling
100 feet
place.
away,
Project updates. We'll skip Affordable Housing Trust. Town records,
yeah. Do you want to provide it? You can do more than that.
I've been trying to get the chairman of the Historical Commission to sign the letter that catches us up with what we need to do for funding that's already been approved.
Right.
And there's confusion that it's for digitizing the records, which it is not, because that was,
Yeah.
is not allowed by CPA. So I sent another email hoping he understands there's a difference between the letter that was prepared last spring and the letter I just prepared.
So there is a letter drafted now. They just need to approve it
He just,
at their
right,
next meeting.
he thinks that we don't need to approve a letter because we already did.
But
he
it
wanted
was-
to put it on the
He did
next-
the wrong one.
The next month's meeting, and I said, no, it's, we already, Candy came in July. So we
So is the
don't,
letter that you drafted already approved?
no,
That's the
it was
question.
approved for me to draft it.
All right.
So I sent it to him to say, is this okay? Please approve it, sign it, and then I'll send it to Candy.
All right. So you don't have to wait for the next meeting.
I don't believe so, and that's
Okay,
what I said.
'cause
in the
that's what I thought he
email
was
this
saying he
afternoon.
was going to
I said,
do.
no, we don't, that's not what the discussion is. This has already been discussed. It's just, this is documentation of what was discussed.
Right.
So hopefully that cleared it up with this last email this afternoon.
Was there another one that I
I
haven't seen?
sent one at like 4:30 or,
All right. I may not have seen that one yet.
yeah.
If I don't think it's clear, I may respond.
So,
So at any rate, yeah, once she has that, she has heard from the vendor that does the restoration. I forget what the name of it is.
Green Dragon.
Green Dragon, that's it. So she's just trying to get that letter so that she's on the up and up to move forward with those. So hopefully we'll get that straightened out very soon.
And the person who's approving the letter is the chairman of the
Is
historical commission?
Dave Therian,
And is the chairman?
yes. Historic gravestones, will, since Rich isn't here, we'll skip that. Grafton Common Restoration, we'll let Paul.
So last week I went before the the select board and we got approval of the change order that we were looking for. Essentially, there was a slight difference from what we had originally envisioned. If you all recall, there's a retaining wall that's needed because of the proximity of where the landing at the top of the elevated walkway is so close to the north-south walkway, regular walkway, that there's not enough room to slope. So that's driving the need for a retaining wall. So the retaining wall that was originally proposed was gonna go down 12 inches and essentially go around about 3/4 of the bandstand. Based on the input that we had from Mr. Gallagher and also Mr. Yeomans, who sent a letter to the Accessibility Committee, we took another look at the plans. Based on the elevation of the bandstand, there is no, and the elevated walkway, there is no need for any railings. But out of an abundance of caution, we had been proposing a low edge guard made of metal to keep, anyone, the walker on the elevated walkway path, or, a wheelchair. But based on the input that we got from Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Yeomans, we took another look at that. We brought the architect back into the mix and redid the plan. So what we are doing now is, instead of having that low edge guard, we are having a railing that will be matched to the railing that exists on the bandstand today. so it'll have the same look. It'll be on the outside edge of the walkway. It'll serve the dual purpose of providing that boundary for the drop-off, but also will provide a handrail if someone needs one. So it's of the height that an ADA handrail would be. Those range from 34 to 38 inches, and this one's gonna be 36 inches, so fits right in there. With the architect's advice, we're going a little bit deeper with the retaining wall, so it's 18 inches versus 12, but we also don't need to have it go around 3/4. So it's gonna go, if you look at the walkway today, and if you look at the bandstand, there are actually like sections of it. So the landing itself will have the railing on the edge, plus the 2 sections immediately adjacent to that. And at that point, it's not very high off the ground at all anymore, and we're just gonna slope. So the long and short is, you know, even though the foundation for the retaining wall is a little bit deeper, it's also a little bit shorter. You know, we're switching out the wood railing or switching out the metal for the wood. It ended up being $600 difference in cost, so $600 more. But it's all been approved. The Accessibility Commission met. I haven't heard from them, but I did talk to them prior to it. I did send them the plans. And in talking to the chair, he felt that they would receive it favorably because the only thing that had changed from the original plans that they had already approved or, you know, accepted is that we're adding an additional element of accessibility by providing a handrail where we didn't really need to provide one. So, so that's all approved. We're moving forward. As far as work that's been done, the contractor was there over last weekend and did most of the roof. They ran out of material, so they couldn't finish it. They're coming back this weekend to finish the roof. And a few other minor carpentry things. After that, all the carpentry there should be done. One of the concerns we had when, you know, we had this delay with having to relook at the elevated walkway was, you know, trying to keep the contractor on site. Well, of course, you know, they have to work, so they're on another project right now. That'll be finishing up very shortly. And as soon as they're finished with that, they're gonna be back here full force. The granite for the east entranceway is imminent as far as it being delivered. It's with the local granite company, and they're coring it, and then it's gonna be installed. Once that's installed, then we can have the measurements taken so that the archway can be built, and that's probably a 6-week process, six weeks or so, give or take, to get that done. So there's still plenty of time, if we can get that granite in soon and get those measurements, to still get that in, you know, before the snow flies. You know, and the walkway, you know, there's plenty of time for them to do that as well. The hatchway for the backflow preventer is in, and the DPW will be installing that as their schedule permits. Paul Canoyer is going to be working to try and get the telephone pole out of the common. There are still wires on it. We believe they are Verizon's wires. So he's coordinating getting Verizon to get those wires out so that National Grid can then cut down the pole and have that out of there. The bollards are in to put in by the east entrance. So those will be put in shortly. And there's a concrete pad that needs to be redone because of the accident, motor vehicle accident number 2, which was the one that took out the archway lantern. It also took out that trash barrel that was there that was actually fastened to the concrete, so it damaged the concrete. So gonna get a new pad, new trash barrel, and the archway, so that pretty much encapsulates all that damage from that. There's only one motor vehicle accident. We are still waiting for the material to deal with that, and that's from the motor vehicle accident number 3, which is in front of the Congregational Church. There's one post that was broken and the railings were damaged. So we're hopeful that that will be in soon too. I'm not including any accidents beyond motor vehicle accident number 3. I know we've had a couple of others since then. We've had that Walmart truck and all, but that's not part of this project, and the town is working to get insurance money to fix that. But you know, it's a wait to get the granite. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we ordered that granite back in March, and we're still waiting for it. So.
Is there like a long history of accidents at the Common, or just,
It's just lately, it's been like a rash of that. I mean, we've always had some here and there, but never so close together. And so many. I mean, that Walmart truck took out
And all
like
over the
4 or
place,
5.
it's not a repeat.
Yeah.
yeah, listen, so.
And so where does that leave us with the timeline for at least the bandstand itself?
So, on the change order, it's to have it done by November 1st.
Okay.
So, you know, I would like to have the whole thing wrapped up by then, but I have a feeling the archway is gonna take a little bit longer to get that. Once that's
Yeah.
in, they can come and put that in.
Yeah, I know we're waiting on material for that, so it's one of those things.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, weights and measures. We're now at the last library meeting, we discussed this, and the architect said, well, you need to talk to the fire marshal. So the weights and measures have not been moved to the library. Because when we were about to move it, we had electrical outlet installed so that it's been electrified, so it has light. And then the building inspector, after he patched up, because he went in and patched, he said, oh, you can't put it here. So we asked the architect said these are the regs, but you need now the fire marshal to determine whether or not, because there's a little, the fire alarm annunciator is right at the height of the box. So,
It'll be blocked by the bus?
no, it's,
Above
but
it?
there are also bookcases that are built in on both sides, you know, all around. So they're only 12, 14 inches deep. This is 24 inches. So that's why they say with the fire marshal has to decide, because this is supposedly going out, not down. It's going, they want you to see the light. It's a strobe light.
Right.
So that's where that,
Would have been nice to have known that before we had the
but in the electrical,
electricity.
right. So
Is somebody contacting the fire marshal? Do you know when?
Dave said he would contact the fire marshal.
Is it Fire Marshal Bill?
It's the new guy. I don't know.
Yeah,
Fire chief.
He's a fire inspector or
Yeah,
chief, not the
he's-
marshal.
Yeah, the marshal's at the state level.
They were saying the fire marshal. That's what.
Isn't the
Is
fire
an
marshal at the
inspector.
state level?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a.
Jim
fire
Carrey
marshal.
has a
No, it
character,
should
Fire
be
Marshal
the-
Bill.
it
That's
would
what
be
he
local fire
Yeah.
fire inspector.
Whoever's-
Wouldn't be
The
the
inspector, not even the chief.
Whoever somebody in the local fire
Right.
department
And
needs
and
to,
you don't have a
They
big
could-
department here, so
right,
it's,
pretty easy to
Didn't we
find.
talk about this last time?
Oh, we've
I
been
missed the
talking about
meeting.
it for
So
months
why-
and months and
I mean, how hard
months.
is it to get him to look at that?
Well, the fire marshal, this just came up at the meeting 2
Fire
weeks ago.
inspector.
I'm just regurgitating what I
I know,
was
it's,
told,
it's,
sorry.
you
The
don't
fire
usually have-
personnel only came up at the last library meeting 2 weeks ago. Before then, it was building inspector.
We talked about the electrical outlet.
So we're switching departments to find out,
Well, at least someone can tell you it's okay.
so.
It feels like
We'll find the
goalposts keep
next
getting
issue.
moved.
Jim's not here, so for Lions Club, do we have any, I mean, you kind of updated us that there was an outstanding bill that is now in process, so that's done. Any update on Cisco Homestead?
Yes, 5 days ago, I just got an email from Ray. I just forwarded to Joanne literally a few minutes ago because I realized she didn't get it. But Ray's mentioned that they received the drawings and specs from Austin Design for the interior of the homestead and attached the invoice that they forwarded to her this past week. So I think that's the final invoice. I'll reach out to Ray later just to double check, but yeah,
really
it's
good
one of those
idea,
things
good
that
idea.
she doesn't explicitly say it's the final, so that's the
That's
piece.
what I make sure.
But yeah, that's the update from her.
Okay. Any additional, because I know, it seems like, I don't know if Jen was at our last meeting, but she said there's still a few things, or maybe
There's
for
still
the
process.
ADA,
Yeah,
a few,
we haven't closed that out yet.
okay. Weed abatement,
Yes. So task one has been completed. A report was submitted and published. It was over 1,900 pages on all past reported pollution spills and some required cleanups into Flint Pond from 1938 to 2022.
Wow.
And all documented modifications to the water flow into and out of Flint Pond for those years. Task 2, a meeting was held on September 9th to select the sites on the bottom of Flint Pond to sample, which samples will be sent to a laboratory for analyzing these sediments for the current level of existing pollution in Flint Pond. Bill said that by the present date, the sampling is most likely complete, although the laboratory analysis would not be.
So you didn't send that 1,900 pages to the committee to review?
It's in your
Would you
mailbox.
like? I can have them send it directly to you.
I'm good, thank you.
I'll send you the case of paper. 95 North Street. Have they started?
Jen went to select board this past week. I
Mhm.
wasn't there, I think on Tuesday.
I watched it.
You did?
Yeah.
Just to present the project. She said she didn't really get any feedback, except they wanted her to give more exact numbers and, what was the other thing? More grant details, so those are the two things they asked for.
So I walk a lot, and my route takes me by where the entrance to this is gonna be. And the DPW has been there. They've actually opened up the wall there so that they could get equipment in, and have started doing some work. And I was just looking at it as I'm going by, because I know, the issue of parking came up. So outside of the stone wall, there's a good amount of room. There's probably a good, I want to say 6 feet at least, maybe a little bit more. I'm wondering if it might be possible to at least add one, if not maybe two more parking spaces outside, if you cleared that out and, made it like whatever material they're using in the parking lot. If that might make it amenable to the chief, because I know his issue was the road's not wide enough. But if the cars were, if not completely, virtually off the road, would that allow them to have
That's that
spots?
road that goes into the subdivision?
So just beyond it, they've opened up the stone wall there so that they can get in to where they're gonna have the parking lot. So that's all open now, but that, in front of that stone wall, before you hit the road, it's gotta be at least 6 feet, if not more.
So without altering the stone wall, you think there's enough space outside of that to park? You think?
I would think you
eyeballing
could
it?
get a car, if not completely off the road. I mean, to have it completely off the road, you probably couldn't get out of the passenger side. But if you left, a couple feet on that side, you'd still be mostly off the road. So, I mean, it might be worth talking to the Traffic Safety Commission, to see if, to know that going in, if someone brings up that issue, to know that there are two more. And quite frankly, you could take it further, because there's a similar situation just further up in front of what is the family's name? I'm sorry.
Engvall?
Engvall's, that house. There's a stone wall there, and you could have another couple spots there if they were amenable to that. But I think they're trying to sell that property, or I don't know. So they may not be, but even if they're not, I think you could fit two more spots on the outside. still
One
be able-
thought that might make that just a little bit concerning, just literally just now thinking of it when you mentioned it,
Being
is,
able to pull up and see.
being able to see as well as even a passenger getting out and possibly damaging that stone wall with their door. I don't think that's as likely, because the wall's probably more sturdy than most
Yeah,
doors.
the wall's pretty huge, so
Yeah.
I don't think it would be damaged. And, yeah, I see your point with perhaps the parking spot that's further down the hill, because that would be the lane you're turning into. But the one that's further up the hill, I don't think you'd have a problem, because you'd have a clear view of sight into the lane that you're gonna be pulling into. So I think you could get at least one more spot.
And it,
The only issue with that's in the public right away, so you wouldn't want to kind of have it as official, but
Yeah, but just have it cleared out so that,
just to have it graded in such a way that it could be used that way.
Are there gonna be more public meetings, or do you know how that's gonna get rolled out before town meeting?
Jen said she was gonna work on
S-
an
we have a
additional
meeting-
informational type meeting.
Yeah, there's a meeting, I know, with Concom and so forth for an informational meeting, and then there's another presentation to the selectmen. And because I don't think I'm gonna be around for them, so, but yeah, there is a couple of meetings coming up.
Yeah,
I did not write them down because I'm not
Okay.
gonna be around.
Right.
and
But not community support is what I'm looking at, it's a,
Like a public
educational,
forum
right,
type
right,
thing?
just to kind of
Yeah, just
say, this is the
information.
plan, we
Because
ask
at
you to
this
come,
point, we're
ask
not
questions.
changing
Yeah,
things.
but just to say, if you have questions, we can
Right.
answer your questions. Like, is there gonna be a dog park? No, it's not, this, this is what we're gonna have, so
Right.
that it's just another opportunity that Jen would do it, not your consultants, cause I'm guessing they've used up all their,
Right.
because that's something, that's for the library, some consultants or something. Well, they went to more meetings than they thought they were gonna do, so it charges more, it's like.
Well, it depends upon how the contract's written.
It's because it's
Anyway.
gone on for an extra year.
Yes. That's an additional service.
Okay, UUSGU,
So,
accessibility.
I heard from them last week. They were, they already had the RFP drafted. They've been working with the assistant town administrator on that. They came back because they had some procedural type questions for the back end when, you know, they start to get their what bids received. So those were answered by William. I gave my opinion, but I suggested that they reach back out to William, and he did. So I haven't heard anything further, but if they haven't gone out to bid, they will be very shortly.
Okay. And any update on the South Grafton playground?
I have not heard anything new since our last meeting.
Okay. All right. Do I have a
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I declare the motion carried. We are adjourned.